Drag Race.
If you know the theme tune, or what that represents, that's from RuPaul's Drag Race. It's a fantastic show. It is a reality TV show where it has drag performers coming on stage, writing original songs, performing to songs, lip syncing. It's enthralling, from the creativity, the costumes, the makeup, to even, I must admit, the cattishness of some of the entrants. Is just absolutely gripping TV. So we thought we'd take the history of particularly drag in South Africa, and I found it absolutely fascinating that drag culture and drag performance and drag pageants go as far back as the 1950s in South Africa. And we look at a very, very conservative country in the grips of apartheid in the 1950s, and we still have these subcultures of people finding the space to come out and to express themselves. There was a very, very interesting article in the Conversation website by TL McCormick, and it explored the history of drag performance in South Africa. And now the Western Cape has some of the oldest drag contests in the country. Miss Gay Western Cape, which only became official in 1996, has been in the underground, as I said, since the 1950s. To take us through some of this history is the organizer of Miss Gay Western Cape, Barry Reid, joins us in the studio. Barry, Cape Town in particular has a very, very rich history of drag and drag performances, doesn't it?
That's very true, and extremely rich. You can go right through to District 6 to watch exhibitions about QP, to the current queens. I mean, you've got a runner-up from SA's Got Talent who is a Cape Townian. So the history of drag and the strong culture that it comes out of there, to it being represented in your Cape Town Carnival, the Klopse in the beginning of the year. It's always been a part of who we are and what we are. It's from District 6 days to current, to in Johannesburg, even to, even in Zimbabwe, there was a huge drag culture.
Please inform me in terms of the difference between these few terms. And if I get it confused, I'm sure that there are people out there get confused. What is the difference between a drag queen, a drag performer, a female impersonator, and then what would the other one be? Well, those three. What would, and also an entrant to Miss Gay Western Cape, because you not necessarily dress up as a woman, to be gay. So if you could just clarify those. So those
it depends exactly on that, on what it's for, or what is the event that's being held. Drag, at the end of the day, essentially is still the main term, which is drag, dressed as a girl. So they all take on the form of a male getting dressed as a female. You have the drag king scene, which is obviously the females dressing as men. The difference comes in is depending on what type of drag you want to take on. Like today they talk about club kids and performing girls and fishy girls and, or drag queens. So really it's the same thing. It just depends on what context or what environment you're using it in. So you'll have your performing queens. Those are people that really enjoy doing the lip sync, the art of lip sync, being able to impersonate another performer and lip sync their song. Now you get those that impersonate another person, maybe a Whitney Houston impersonator, who will lip sync her songs, but you'll get somebody who impersonates more than just one queen. They'll do Whitney, Beyonce, whoever, all the other performers. Then you get, in the pageant scene especially, they like to refer to it as a fishy queen. In other words, more drag in that they try to impersonate looking as female as possible. Not drag as we now get to know drag being where it's this over-contoured faces and eyebrows that are drawn up, as high as your hairline, the padding, all that kind of thing that's come in, especially in these recent years with the whole RuPaul phenomenon. phenomenon. Yes, that word. So really, it's, when we rebirthed Musqué Western Cape, if we can call it that, in 2009, myself and Mark Deneau, it had been in existence since 1996, more formalized. They held it at the Shul out in Sea Point. And there was some amazing, beautiful queens that came out of that era. Scarlett Mercedes, for example, who's still on the scene today. An unbelievably beautiful drag, more a female drag, if that makes sense now, with me talking about fishy queens, looking more realistically like a female. You could literally look at the person and not realize it's actually a male. Terms have changed over the years, and as we become more politically correct, and there's more studies done about things, and people are becoming more allowing the people from the universities, etc., to start doing the studies on all these different terms. You get the things they start analyzing, and they give it proper names.
And I've once watched the documentary by Lauren Bucas. I think it was called
Glitter Boys
and Ganglands. And there was an entrant into Miss Gay Western Cape who was in drag, but was also a transgendered person.
That's correct.
That brings another dimension into this, because you don't have to be a transgendered person to be a drag performer or a drag queen.
You see, our reigning Miss Gay Western Cape, Maxine Wild, who won on the 2nd of November, is a transgender person who does drag. So and her tagline, if you can call it that, is trans is who I am, drag is what I do.
That is brilliant.
You see, so it females are dragging nowadays. You get females that are entering as drag because it's the art form of the over the top, the cover up of. So
essentially, you could have anyone, even a cis-het man,
drag.
As drag. You could have a very, very effeminate, buxom woman also performing drag. So
that's correct.
It's an all-encompassing term.
That's right.
But also brings to question that drag, it speaks to the fluidity of gender stereotypes, in that dressing up, contouring your face doesn't necessarily only belong to the female, what we would call the female gender identity, in that it encompasses everything, and anyone can be anyone who they want to be, and to anything that they can identify with.
I think that's, essentially where the world has gone these days. Everybody is being entitled and allowed to express who they are in whichever way you want. And none of us should be out there to judge what your beliefs or what you are or who you want to be or what you want to do. Whether you want to be gender non-conforming, whether you want to be in any way, whatever you want to be, allow me as a person to be me. Don't sit there and say, oh no, that's you can't do that. They fail. They this, they're all these horrible terms that come out. Let me be who I want to be. You can sit there and not like what I do, but then keep that to yourself. Don't attack me on it. I will respect you for your space. You respect me for my space. But at the same time, for me as the drag person, I shouldn't be throwing it in your face and making you and trying to force you to change to become a dragger.
Cape Town, particularly the legacy of District 6, and then of course where and the Cape Flats, there is this duality of particularly transgendered people, in that the use of the M word could equally be used as a slur, as a form of discrimination, but at the same time, also I've spoken to transgendered people who say they own that word, and also somewhat owned by their community. It's a very, very interesting background, where at the same time the levels of homophobia can be so heightened in our communities, but at the same time also so accepting of transgendered and people who dress as women.
It's so difficult because, like you say, some of us will accept it, but say it in the wrong context at the wrong time, and that person who may turn to you and say, I'm happy with the M word, will suddenly turn around and throw daggers and everything at that person, because how dare you do that to me? So, it's a very fine line. You'll have people saying, "Oh no, I'm okay with it. I'm totally fine with it. They can call me whatever they want to." You've got movies that have got that name in it, and you'll have your really strong activists fighting it, saying, "How could you use that word?" Even for us as Miss Gay Western Cape, we have the question raised as, why are we called Miss Gay Western Cape? We should be Miss LGBTI Western Cape, surely. But then you get all the lesbian, the gay, the bisexual. So then how does the pageant turn? Do we rather than become Miss Drag Western Cape? Or, we have to find that, what is the correct term? But that's when everybody starts getting in and starts throwing their 20 cents and their 30 cents and trying to take over this. Enjoy the space. Enjoy the art form.
It's a rapidly evolving environment, which I think is actually so beautiful, where people have growing awareness, growing conscientization, and we're putting it out there. And whether you are part of the LGBTQI community, whether you are an ally of the community, allow yourself and open yourself also to sometimes say the wrong thing, but use it as a learning experience. I think that is the beauty at this moment in time.
It brings me back to the respect of the other person. If I am going to sit here and wrongly term somebody a transgender and call them something that's wrong, or pronoun incorrectly address them, respect me enough back to say, I'm sorry, but you actually got the term wrong. And teach me rather out of the situation than to attack me and go off at me for being wrong.
We are talking to Barry Reid. He is the organizer of Miss Gay Western Cape. We're talking about the history of drag in the Western Cape and by extension the country. If you are a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race on television, it's a show that's gotten so much attention, and in pop culture it's become part of memes and pop culture references. Right. Has this helped in terms of the awareness regarding drag culture?
Completely. So, I'll straight out. When we rebirthed Miss Gay Western Cape in 2009, 2010 we were fortunate to have Glitter Boys and Ganglands happen with Lauren, and then in 2011 we thought, well, RuPaul at Drag Race was so big at that stage, we brought Jujubee out from America, and there we were in Sea Point Civic having Miss Gay Western Cape with Jujubee on stage. And a lot of people are like, why? Why are you bringing the American out? Because we've got such a strong culture in our country. And it boils down again to the fact that there's a lot of people that sit at home and watch RuPaul's Drag Race, but will not come out to a local event and support drag. So this year we decided to go all out. We brought out Dusty Ray Bottoms, Morgan McMichaels, Maya Miller. We've had Brooklyn Heights, Alaska's coming next month. And then it was brought up, why are you bringing these queens? Well, because when you look at that audience who's come out to watch, it's people that would never have been. And all of a sudden, your regular gigs at the clubs, your pageants are being supported by a whole new audience.
Barry, there's a question here on the WhatsApp line, 072-567-1567. This person says that they are transgender, but they ask, how do you make someone to be someone they're not? These people are confused. You are male, but not male, etc. I'm transgender, but I'm not drag.
Then I respect them for being transgender and not drag. In no way have I said that person, I'm forcing them to drag. The person who's won is a transgender person who loves the art form of drag.
Drag is the art, the culture, the expression.
I know I'm pushing somebody to say, but for a lot of trans people or transgender people, they use drag as an escape or a stepping stone to identifying or going through the process of acceptance that they are transgender. So there's a very fine line that we walk on that, because even in one of our contestants this year entered as a drag queen, and we had people come from Gender Dynamics to speak about trans issues, because for you as a Miss Gay Western Cape, you need to be able to speak about all the issues that are happening in our country.
Would you say that there is transphobia within the drag community?
I don't think there's a lot of transphobia. I mean, I think there's phobia in any community. That is where it comes in, to be able to teach people about others and their ways and their rights and what they're entitled to.
Another question here on the WhatsApp line. Evita Besaidenout. Is that Peter Dirk Ace in drag?
Correct. That's correct. I think Peter Dirk Ace identified drag to be more the satirical side of drag, being able to tell political stories and take on topics that were taboo, but with a light-hearted way. And look how that was accepted. Because even in those heavy apartheid days, he was being accepted to come and have tea parties and to experience and talk about things, which was giving a stepping stone to others to realize there is others out there who need these platforms.
Barry Reid is the organizer of Miss Gay Western Cape. We're talking about the history of drag in Cape Town, the Western Cape, and by extension, South Africa. If you have any questions or have any comments, or if you're part of the drag community and you want to talk about the pageants, the performances, the shows, why you love it, if you are an attender of these or attendee of these shows, give me a call 021-446-0567 or 072-567-1567. And there are plenty of these shows out in the CBD at the moment. There's Club 021, in the District 6 area. Rosie's
used to be,
yes.
It's now 021.
Is that now 021?
That's
okay.
Correct, yes.
There is also various restaurants and show performances.
Right.
There is a great culture, and also Kinky Boots that's on at the Fugard at the moment. That's really much in our frame of reference at the moment.
That's correct. And you have people from this radio station that have been there to go and to get dressed in drag to see what the art form is about. But it's liberating for a lot of men. A lot of men find it that ability to just experience your female side, if you want to call it the female, or just drag and try something different, try an art form. I mean, I address it heavily as an art form. It's an art form I fell in love with completely.
It can't be anything but an art form if you were to look at the some of the makeup. It is incredibly stylized. No person actually dresses like that. Whether you're a man or a woman. This is incredibly stylized. From the manicured faces with the shading, the chiseled looks, it's very much over the top, and that is part of the entire persona of the performance, and you just can't help but being a bit more flamboyant.
And the people that do drag live their alter egos out in the drag. You'll have, when they're out of drag, they're these quiet people that just, they do the little thing on the side, but the minute the drag comes on, that wig and the contouring and everything, the fierceness within them comes out. And they're able to live lives and express themselves on a totally different level. And that is so powerful.
Miss Gay Western Cape, it's only recently, being made official. You're still struggling to get sponsorship, media partners to an event that is widely attended in the city.
It's been sold out for 11 years in a row. We've taken it from the Joseph Stone, we went to Sea Point Civic, we went to the Convention Center, to the amphitheater, 1,400 people. We went to the Baxter, and we've taken it back home to Athlo, to the Joseph Stone Auditorium.
So why would you say that there's this lack of sponsorship interest?
Sponsorship, we are blessed to an extent because a lot of our friends are passionate about drag as well, and they'll help us out. But the biggest thing I think that comes out is brand association. It's the ability to say, what are you supporting? You are supporting, and they look at it as men in dresses, not as the art form of drag. You see, America gets a lot of sponsors because the art form and drag has been going for many more years in mainstream. We're still very much young in this whole mainstream. It's only now that it's starting to come out of the shells and out of the woodwork, and people are seeing more and watching RuPaul and going, wow, we love this art form. Let's go and find who in our country does this, who in our local town does it. And because of that now, we are hoping that at some point it will be sponsored. But yes, very difficult to get sponsors to support something.
And do you see a lot of people, particularly from rural areas of the country, small towns outside of Cape Town, who feel that they can't necessarily express themselves, where they're from, and that when they come to the big city and they enter into Miss Gay Western Cape, that they somewhat find themselves, they blossom?
You've hit the nail on the head. It's totally that. We have girls from Mamre or Atlantis that may come out to enter our pageant, and they go back as heroes and community spokespeople, and it changes their lives. And that's what it's about. It's about making that difference in someone's life who thinks or believes they have no purpose, to becoming role models to other people out there. They are able to walk out in their street and people go, "Oh, you that one that entered the pageant. You went and represented us. You know," and they come in the taxi loads and bus loads to the event to support them. We had a young girl from St. Helena Bay who came through to enter this year. Absolutely loved the experience. Said, I'm coming back next year, because of what she learned and how she was able to live her life openly without anybody. We are judging because it's a pageant. Don't get me wrong. There are judges that are going to judge you, but they're judging you for the pageant's sake, not for you as a person.
I'm fully open to attempting my chance at drag someday. Maybe you can invite me. I'll do a performance for you. You can judge me on that. But also keep us in mind when you next have the Western Cape Miss Gay pageant. Barry Reid, he's the organizer of that pageant, talking to us about the history of drag and drag performance here in Cape Town. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.